Level 1. The tender. The transition begins in a gravel parking lot in Louisiana. You are 21 years old. You have a brand new commercial diving certificate that cost you $25,000 and 7 months of your life. You're standing in front of a corrugated metal warehouse that smells like diesel, salt, and old grease. You aren't a diver yet. You're a tender. In the hierarchy of the Gulf, you are less than a person. You are a tool that breathes. Your job is simple. Do everything the divers don't want to do. You wake up at 4 a.m. to prep the gas racks. You lug 100-pound manifold blocks across slick decks. You scrub barnacles off the hull of a barge until your knuckles bleed and your shoulders scream. You spend 18 hours a day in the sun, drenched in hydraulic fluid and sweat. The veteran divers don't learn your name. They call you maggot, rookie, or boy. You learn the first rule of the system. Silence is survival. When a diver screams at you over the comms because his hot water line flickered for a split second, you don't argue. You apologize. You fix it. You realize that their lives are literally in your hands. If you turn the wrong valve on the gas rack, they die. If you trip over an umbilical cord, they die. That weight sits in your stomach like a lead sinker. You make $18 an hour. It's barely enough to cover your truck payment and the cheap beer you drink to numb the vibration in your bones at night. You watch the big money guys, the saturation divers, walk onto the boat with their custom gear bags and 1,000-yard stares. They don't look at the sky, they look at the water. They make more in a week than you make in a year. You want what they have. You think it's about the money. You don't realize yet that the money is just a bribe to keep you from noticing your soul is eroding.
Level 2. The air diver. 3 years later, you get your break. You're no longer just tending the lines. You're at the bottom of them. You are an air diver now. Most of your work happens in the shallows, anywhere from 30 to 150 feet. It's dirty, dangerous, and loud. You're clearing debris from an oil platform leg or jetting sand away from a buried pipeline. The water is the color of strong coffee. You can't see your own hand in front of your face. You work by touch. You learn to see with your fingers, feeling the texture of a bolt or the vibration of a pneumatic drill. The pressure is a physical presence. It pushes against your suit, reminding you that you don't belong here. You start learning about the bends. Every minute you spend down there, nitrogen is dissolving into your blood and tissues like bubbles in a soda bottle. If you come up too fast, those bubbles expand. They tear through your joints. They stroke out your brain. You spend hours in a decompression chamber, a cramped steel box, waiting for the gas to leave your body. The psychological shift begins here. You start to view the surface world as an interruption. Your friends back home are getting married and going to office jobs. They talk about sports and movies. You find you have nothing to say to them. You only feel right when you're on a dive station, smelling the metallic tang of bottled air and hearing the rhythmic hiss-chunk of the demand valve in your helmet. You're becoming a creature of the industry.
Level 3. The saturation candidate. The call comes on a Tuesday. There's an opening for a SAT run on a deep-water project in the North Sea. This is the transition point. You aren't just going for a dive. You are leaving the human race for 30 days. You pass the medical exam. The doctors check your bone density and your lung capacity. They look for dysbaric osteonecrosis, literally dying bone tissue caused by pressure. You don't care. You sign the waivers. You sign the life insurance forms. You're focused on the day rate, $1,500 a day, plus depth pay bonuses. You enter the saturation complex on the deck of a massive diving support vessel, DSV. The door is a circular steel hatch with a heavy brass wheel. When it swings shut and the locks engage, the sound is final. You are now in a pressurized environment. They begin blowing you down. They pump in a mixture of helium and oxygen, heliox. The first thing you notice is your voice. The helium makes you sound like a cartoon character. It's funny for the first 10 seconds, then it becomes frustrating. You have to speak slowly and clearly just to be understood. The second thing you notice is the heat. Helium conducts heat away from your body much faster than air. But during the compression, the gas gets hot. You're sweating in your underwear, gasping in the thick synthetic air. You realize you can't leave. If there is a fire on the ship, if the ship sinks, if your mother dies, you cannot go outside. If you open that hatch, your internal organs would literally explode. You are a prisoner of physics. You rationalize it by looking at the contract. 30 days, 6 figures. You can handle a month in a tank.
Level 4. The Sat Diver. You are now living at 600 feet of seawater equivalent pressure. Your world is a steel tube 12 feet long and 7 feet wide. You share it with 2 other men. It smells of dirty laundry, bleach, and the metallic scent of the CO2 scrubbers. A typical day begins with the transfer under pressure, TUP. You crawl through a side hatch into the bell chamber. The bell is disconnected from the living chamber and lowered into the blackness of the ocean. You look out the small, thick acrylic porthole. The sunlight fades from blue to gray to a terrifying, absolute black. You are the lead diver today. You put on your hat, a Kirby Morgan 37, and check your comms. Your partner stays in the bell as the bellman, managing your umbilical. You step out into the water. It is 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Without your hot water suit, a rubber garment that constantly pumps warm water over your skin from the surface, you would be dead from hypothermia in minutes. The work is brutal. You're torquing bolts on a subsea manifold. Each movement feels like moving through molasses. You are breathing a gas so dense that it feels like drinking liquid. Every breath is an effort. You lose track of time. There is no day or night. There is only the shift and the tank. The emotional numbness sets in. You stop thinking about your family. You stop thinking about sunlight. You become a biological machine. Your only concerns are the integrity of your hot water hose and the steady flow of gas. You see a massive grouper swim past your helmet, its eye the size of a dinner plate. You feel nothing but a mild annoyance that it's in your way. You are a ghost in a suit, performing tasks in a graveyard of shipwrecks and pipelines.
Level 5. The Deep Sat Veteran. You've done 10 sat runs in 3 years. You have $300,000 in a bank account you never look at. Your body is changing. Your skin has a grayish, waxen tint from the lack of UV light. Your joints ache with a dull, persistent throb that never goes away, even on the surface.
You have sat brain, a mild cognitive fog caused by long-term exposure to high-pressure nervous syndrome, HPNS. You are now the guy the company calls for the bad jobs, the jobs at 1,000 feet. The current is so strong it can rip a diver off a structure like a piece of lint. You've seen things go wrong. You were in the chamber when a seal failed on a bellmate's helmet, and you watched his eyes fill with blood as the pressure differential tried to pull his head into his chest. You didn't scream. You just helped the supervisors bag the body once the chamber was stabilized. The money doesn't feel like a bribe anymore. It feels like danger pay for a soul you already sold. You realize you don't fit in on land anymore. When you're home on your off months, the silence of a house drives you crazy. You miss the constant hum of the life support fans. You miss the simplicity of the chamber. On land, life is complicated. In the tank, life is just breathing. You find yourself hanging out only with other divers. You sit in bars in Aberdeen or Homa, talking about P-points and mixes. You look at normal people with a mix of pity and contempt. They have no idea how thin the line is between existence and annihilation. They live in a world of illusions. You live in a world of atmospheres. Level 6, the Bellman Supervisor Track. Your knees are shot. The doctors find early signs of necrosis in your hips. They tell you that you can't go to 1,000 feet anymore. You have two choices: quit or move into the hat. You move into the bellman role more often. Then eventually you start training as a life support technician, LST, or a dive supervisor. You're the one on the surface now. You sit in a darkened room filled with monitors and gas gauges. You are the voice from the top. You watch the younger divers on the screen. You see their frantic movements when they get tangled. You hear the panic in their helium-distorted voices. You remain calm. You've been there. You talk them through it with a clinical, detached tone. Check your umbilical, son. Breathe. Slow it down. You have gas. You have time. You are now part of the management. You understand the math of the system. You know that the company views the divers as expensive, depreciating assets. You see the spreadsheets. You see the cost-benefit analysis of safety protocols versus project deadlines. You realize that the brotherhood of the divers is a myth. The system is a machine that consumes men and spits out oil and gas. You've lost 2 friends to accidents that were officially labeled as unforeseeable equipment failure. You know they were caused by fatigue and corner cutting. You said nothing. To speak up is to be blackballed. You have a mortgage. You have a second wife who likes the lifestyle the dive money provides. You keep your mouth shut and watch the gauges. Level 7, the consultant. You are 55 years old. You haven't been in the water in a decade. You are a high-level consultant for global offshore firms. You travel the world in business class, advising on ultra-deep projects in Brazil or West Africa. You are an expert in the physics of death. You design the decompression tables. You approve the safety manuals. You are the one who signs off on the experimental depths. You know exactly what 1,500 feet does to the human nervous system. You know about the tremors, the hallucinations, the permanent neurological damage. You sit in boardrooms with executives who have never seen the ocean from anywhere but a cruise ship balcony. They talk about efficiency and shareholder value. You provide the technical justification for their greed. You are the bridge between the boardroom and the abyss. You are wealthy, but you are a husk. You have 3 ex-wives and children who call you sir and ask for money. You have a permanent ringing in your ears and a tremor in your right hand. You sleep in 4-hour intervals because your internal clock was permanently broken in a chamber in the 90s. You go to the funerals of the legends, the men you dived with 30 years ago. They die of heart failure, strokes, or undetermined causes. The industry doesn't track long-term health outcomes for sat divers. Once you're out of the system, you don't exist. You realize that you spent your entire youth in a box breathing fake air so that people could drive cars to jobs they hate. The irony is heavy, but you have no one to share it with.
Level 8. The Ghost of the Abyss. You are retired now. You live in a quiet house on the coast, but you never go in the water. You can't stand the feeling of it on your skin. It feels like a weight. It feels like a debt. You spend your days staring at the horizon. You can feel the weather changing in your bones before the barometers even twitch. You are a biological record of 30 years of atmospheric torture. You are a walking encyclopedia of secrets that no one wants to hear. You think about the silent world. That's what Cousteau called it. But it wasn't silent. It was a world of screaming metal, roaring gas, and the thumping of your own heart. You realized that the deeper you went, the less of you remained. You left pieces of yourself at 200 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet. The person sitting in this chair is just the leftover scraps. You don't feel like a hero. You don't feel like a pioneer. You feel like a survivor of a war that was never declared. You look at your hands, they're scarred and gnarled. You remember the pressure. Sometimes in the middle of the night, you wake up gasping, thinking the seal on the chamber has blown. You touch the walls of your bedroom, making sure they're solid, making sure you aren't about to pop. You are a legend in the industry, but on the street, you're just an old man with a limp and a strange way of talking. You are untouchable and completely isolated. You have seen the foundation of the world, and it was cold, dark, and indifferent. Somewhere in a gravel parking lot in Louisiana, a 21-year-old kid is getting out of a beat-up truck. He's carrying a brand-new gear bag and a commercial diving certificate. He looks at the massive DSV docked at the pier, and his eyes light up with the thought of the money and the adventure. He sees you standing on the pier, but he doesn't look at your face. He looks at your old custom dive jacket. He thinks he's ready to conquer the ocean. He thinks he knows the price. He doesn't, but he will. The cycle continues. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos like this one.